Yoshi had to go and release an update while my main computer is in shambles. Oh boy. Well, we will persevere because we've got a balance update here with a bunch of changes for the various objectives in the game, as well as changes for several of the characters in Deadlock. So, as always, a link to the patch notes will be in the description down below if you want to follow along, and let's get started. I love 60 FPS gaming on minimum graphics, isn't it great? Anyways, the urn is up first here with a plethora of changes. So you're generally going to move a lot slower now with the urn. The sprint bonus has been reduced from 2 meters to 0, so no more sprint bonus, and the move speed bonus has been reduced from 3.5 to 2 meters. So yeah, it's just going to take you longer to schlep this thing over to the other side of the map, and furthermore, you're going to be more easily detected, because they increase the urn talking frequency from once every 8 seconds to once every 6 seconds, and they increase the distance that you can hear the urn talking. So the enemies will have an easier time trying to find where you are. The one good thing for the urn runner is that stamina recovery has been increased from 15 to 25%, and as you can see, you do still get that one extra stamina bar while holding the urn. So that's cool at least. If you're good at parkour, then you can still turn in the urn pretty quickly. As for the unstable rift, well, that has received some changes too. So the warning time, this little thing right here, has been reduced from 25 seconds to 20 seconds, a little bit less waiting. And the rift troopers have received some buffs. They now have spirit resist, starting at 30% spirit resist and scaling up by 5% for each subsequent rift. And Rift Troopers also have 25% melee resistance, but this will not scale with each Rift. Rift Troopers' spawn interval has been increased from every 0.3 seconds to 0.5 seconds, so they will spawn slightly more staggered. This means that it'll be a little bit harder to actually kill all of the troopers with one big AoE ability. And the max comeback count of Rift Troopers has increased from 12 to 14, so if your team is behind by a lot, you will get way more troopers. But you can see that more staggered spawn now. And, yeah, if I were to try and take them out with something like Seven's Lightning Ball, that would be much less effective than last patch, which I think is fair enough, because these troopers would die really quickly if there were a lot of people, especially people with AoE abilities in the vicinity. So now the most effective way to kill the troopers, in terms of just raw resistances, is to shoot them, and that'll definitely slow down how quickly you kill them. You can still throw a lightning ball at them, or ult them, ooh! But, yeah, it's just going to be a little bit slower. And then finally, the Unstable Rift Comeback Resist Aura Radius has increased from 20 meters to 35 meters. So if your team is behind, and you want to get access to those resists, you no longer have to be just standing within the circle. Now, for 15 meters away from the circle, you will still be able to get those resistances, making the fight a lot more comfortable for the team that is losing. Oh look, I just cleared an objective! That got changed this update too, so the objective bounty split for nearby heroes has been reduced from 40 to 30%. This means that slightly more of the bounty is split team-wide, rather than to an individual player. So if I'm playing 7 here, and I'm using my little Rift Troopers to take this thing out, and I do successfully kill the Walker, I'm not going to get as much of a bonus as I did before, and the rest of the people on my team will get more of a bonus than they did before if they were, like, I don't know, on blue or something. So this is kind of a nerf to split pushing, and people who just like to sit in the side lane and then take a Walker solo. So characters like Wraith 7 will be a little tiny bit poorer this patch, not by much though, and the actual net bounty for everybody on the team is still, you know, the same. It's still, you're still getting like 4,000 souls from a Walker or whatever the number is. Alright, now let's talk about item change. There's only one change. No changes, just one change, and Scourge is getting another nerf, not as big as the previous nerf. It's just going down from 2.6 to 2.5% max health per second, so yeah, I mean, this is definitely a shadow of its former self in terms of the damage, but yeah, proportionally from last patch, it's only getting a moderate nerf here. But now we've got some character balance to discuss, and first up is Billy getting a nerf to the Rising Ram. So this is getting a little bit less spirit scaling on the tier 3, from 0.035 down to 0.03. So we go ahead and upgrade this. You can see that max health damage, spirit scaling has been nerfed, and let's do my Boundless Spirit test. We are just at 10.6% max health damage here. So yeah, it'll be much more difficult to achieve the previous levels of max health that you were able to get on this. Yeah, that's just good, because holy crap, I was seeing people get as high as like 14+%. That's some sort of amount of damage to be dealing, quite simply, and then you can stack Tank Buster on top of it. It's just ridiculous, so this is a well-needed nerf. Doorman is getting some rescaling on his gun, which is something I wasn't quite expecting. So the bullet damage has been rescaled. He does slightly less damage at the start of the match, from 29.26 down to 26, but the scaling per boon has been increased from 1.1 to 1.19. per boon, so he'll get a little bit more damage as the match goes on. And then his crit scaling has been reduced from 25 to 30%, and that is the crit scaling here on the weapon, so he does 30% less damage with headshots compared to other characters, and that's because they're pretty easy to hit. I'm aiming at this guy's chest right now, and it's still counting as a headshot, so that's reasonable, I suppose. And then the Hotel Guest Tier 3, just getting a raw nerf here. The cooldown has been increased from 13 to 15 seconds, so if somebody fails to check out, you will have a slightly longer cooldown than you did before, but still, a 15-second cooldown is crazy. So, you know, it is a nerf, but not like the biggest nerf in the world. Drifter was feeling really, really good in the last update. Really powerful and really smooth, and, well, we can't have that now, can we? Drifter has received numerous nerfs here, so let's take a look. Bullet damage per boon has been reduced pretty substantially, from 0.616 down to 0.49, losing out on a lot of damage there. Blood Scent Tier 3 has been reduced from 12 to 11% extra amplified damage, and then the Stalker's Mark here really receiving a slew of changes. So the base cooldown has been nerfed from 20 to 24 seconds, but you will get your cooldown back to normal when you upgrade to the Tier 2, as the Tier 2 has been buffed by 4 seconds as well. And then the Tier 3 has been reduced in the damage from 2% bleed to 1.5% bleed per second. So you're going to be doing a lot less damage on Drifter this update, especially gun damage. That boon nerf is pretty devastating. And in the early game, you won't be able to use that Stalker's Mark as quickly, although if you max it out, you still have pretty good uptime on it. Uh-oh, Graves is getting changed. Let's see, is she gonna be S tier OP again? Well, we'll just have to find out, but she is getting mostly buffs here. There is one nerf, but yeah, overwhelmingly just a bunch of buffs because, well, she's ping-ponged right back down to being pretty terrible again. She's either S tier or D tier, there's really no in between. So, first of all, the Jar of Dead. The Tier 1 Heal Spirit scaling has been increased by a lot, from 0.1 to 0.6. That is a 60% increase right there. That's a lot more healing. This is just going to be really good at all stages in the game. And the Jar of Dead now builds up faster from neutral creeps. So if you use a Jar of Dead to farm, you will be able to pay for the Jar of Dead in terms of the amount of money that you get, or the amount of death that you get, a lot more easily now. So this is more sustainable, which is honestly very nice, very convenient, considering how they nerfed the generation rate of this in the previous update, so that's pretty nice. Grasping Hands is getting 2 changes here, 1 buff and 1 nerf. So the first thing is a nerf. The immobilized duration has been reduced from 1.25 seconds down to just 1 second, which, yeah, that's eminently reasonable. Fair enough. The Tier 3, however, has been buffed. The cooldown has gone from 10 seconds to 14 seconds cooldown reduction, bringing the total down to just 20 seconds. If you were to, I don't know, get a superior cooldown, you can throw out Grasping Hands once every 16 seconds now. That's a lot more immobilization, and of course, a lot more ghouls. And speaking of ghouls, let's skip over to the Borrowed Decree. This is getting some buffs. So the Tier 1 upgrade is now where you get your ghoul speed from, and this has been preserved completely, no nerf to the movement speed. It's just 15 seconds cooldown reduction, and also 25% ghoul speed. And then the Tier 2 now gives you minus 0.3 seconds on the time to spawn these minions, bringing your total down to 3.7. So, if you have a longer lasting tombstone now with superior duration, then you will actually be able to get more ghouls out of it than you did before, because they will spawn more frequently. So boom, those 2 ghouls go, and this next one is already here. And this next one, whoa, it spawned over there. Did you just come out of the trash? Okay. We got some trash goblins in here. But yeah, that is a very powerful buff to the tombstone, because it means early on, your ghouls are going to be faster right away. But then later into the game, you're just going to have so much more pressure coming from this tombstone. You're going to have more ghouls than you did before, and that's just a really good buff. And then the Essence Theft, it's getting some love too. So first of all, check this out. You can build up Essence Theft from melee hits now, which, I mean, yeah, you're literally slapping them with the Lich Arm, so I think that is totally fair. And the tier 3 here now gives you +1 max steal targets. So, if your summons are going around hitting people like crazy, you'll be able to have a more powerful buff than you did before because you'll steal from one extra person. And if you're playing Gungraves, for some reason, and you buy Ricochet, then, well, it actually doesn't matter, in a sense, because there's only 2 extra Ricochet targets, so the increased cap to 4 doesn't really mean that much, unless you're able to dynamically Ricochet to multiple people. But at the very least, your summons will be the big thing that's, like, spreading this out to 4 different people, especially the ghouls with a tombstone. So that is very cool, although definitely not, like, the biggest buff here. But, yeah, overall, Graves is going to feel a lot better, and, you know, that's good, because on this crap-top potato, if I'm going to stream Deadlock, I'm probably going to play a lot of Graves, because, like, it's a lot easier to hit people with Graves when you have low FPS compared to something like Wraith, man. It's just a simple fact of life. Alright, now Haze finally got a buff that I would consider to be pretty interesting. The tier 2 dagger is, well, pretty cool now. It applies 15 fixation stacks when you hit the sleep dagger, at the cost of a little bit of the cooldown. So the cooldown reduction has gone from 18 to 17 seconds, not quite as spammable, but boom, hit him. 15 fixation stacks. It makes it easier to ramp up that damage. And of course, last patch, she got a buff to the bullet resist shred on the tier 1. So not only do you have 15 fixation stacks, their damage reduction is also 10% lower for 6 seconds after they wake up. So I can hit them, bam, hit that sleep dagger, they're at max fixation stacks now, and I just get to keep on blasting. And it'll also help you, later on when you max out your fixation, hit that cap of 80. Much, much quicker and kill the enemies. So this is a really good buff, honestly. Is it enough to make Haze better than Wraith? I don't know. I still think Wraith is better. Venator maybe too, but yeah, you know, it's good. It's a step in the right direction. Holliday getting another damage nerf on the powder keg here. The spirit scaling has been reduced from 1.2 down to 1.05. So if you are to get something like a Boundless Spirit here, you're looking at less damage on this thing just across the board. Of course, once you upgrade to the tier 3, you still get more spirit scaling, but it's just going to be pound for pound weaker than it was before. And now with the Boundless Spirit here, I'm not even clearing 300 explosion damage, so you can really feel that nerf there. Mirage is getting some nerfs, which is probably not surprising if you've been playing Deadlock the past few days. I haven't really been playing Deadlock the past few days, but I've heard that the Echo Shard Tornado has been an absolute machine. You upgrade this to the tier 3, you get crazy spirit scaling, and then you Echo Shard it, and you're actually pretty much just able to kill people with this. But those days are gone. So the Dust Devil tier 3 spirit scaling has been reduced from +1 to 0.6. Ooh, 40% less damage on that, ladies and gentlemen. That is rough, but totally deserved. And on top of that, Fire Scarab's catching strays here. The tier 3 spirit scaling has been reduced from 0.17 to 0.13, so that is also a very strong nerf to the healing on this thing. But if you're a Jin's Mark and Traveler enjoyer, well, that's gotten a little bit better this update. So the base cooldown on Jin's Mark has been reduced by 1/4 of a second. Now you can see it's 2.75 seconds. But they did take that power away from the tier 3, so the tier 3 now only reduces the cooldown by 0.75 seconds. So early game, before you get the tier 3, your Jin's Marks will be faster and easier to apply. Once you get to the tier 3, they will be exactly the same as they were last patch. And then Traveler just getting a raw buff to the tier 3, it's now 90 seconds of cooldown reduction. You can have a 50-second cooldown on Traveler if you max this out. Of course, if you max this out, you'll be useless, because you won't do damage, because your Jin's Mark will suck, and your Fire Scarabs will suck, and your Tornado will suck, but you can have a 50-second cooldown on Traveler. I guess it's more of a late-game directed change. Once you have nothing else to max out, your Traveler will be a lot stronger. So, yay! Alright, Pocket Mains, it's time for your weekly small nerf. Affliction, going from 11 seconds down to 10 seconds duration. Weaker Affliction. Again. Sorry, Pocket. Oh boy, alright, we've got some Shiv nerfs here to discuss. Unsurprisingly, oh boy, they somehow managed to buff him last patch, when all was said and done after the goofy melee dash that we had for 24 hours. So the serrated knives tier 3 spirit scaling has gone down from 0.09 to 0.07, missing out on a pretty good amount of damage there. Slice and dice spirit scaling has been reduced from 1.44 to 1.2, and the tier 2 has been reduced from 6% spirit resist shred to 4% spirit resist shred, bringing your total up to 10% spirit resist shred per dash. The bloodletting cooldown has been increased from 20 up to 25 seconds, but if you upgrade to the tier 1, it's back down to the normal of 10 seconds, so you get that power back if you upgrade it. The bloodletting damage cleared has been reduced from 35% to 30%, but then if you upgrade to the tier 2, once again, you're back to normal, so that power has been restored if you upgrade this ability. And then the killing blow. The health threshold has been reduced from 20 to 18%. Oh boy. At what point does this ability become less efficient than just, I don't know, shooting them? But then the tier 3 health threshold, once again, restores all of that power. So if you finally decide to max out this ultimate, you're up to a 28% enemy health threshold. So, yeah, just a lot of nerfs to Shiv's damage across the board, and shifting a lot of power out of his base kit and towards these upgrades. Oh, no.
I don't have it in me to fold shit.
They buffed Silver's ult. I'm getting PTSD flashbacks already. The cooldown has been reduced from 80 seconds to 60 seconds. More frequent Lycan curses. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm really scared, chat. Help me. Oh, and Dynamo can have his crown back for having the longest ult cooldown in the game because they buffed Victor's ultimate too! So the cooldown has been reduced from 275 seconds to 240 seconds, but notably the tier 3 has not been changed. It's still just as powerful as it was before, so we're looking at a grand total of a 145 second cooldown on Shocking Reanimation here. Alright, that's cool, thanks Yoshi. I'm not scared by these past 2 changes at all. It's not scary, I promise. All this Puddle Punch innovation has been paying off because Yoshi just hit Splatter with another nerf. Guys, it might be time to give this a serious try. So the Splatter has been reduced in its tier 3 spirit scaling from 1 to 0.9, a 10% reduction in damage here. So you're now just looking at a grand total of 1.7 spirit scaling on the Splatter. You can still play Splatter if you want, but I mean, it might be worth playing Puddle Punch sometime. Just try it out. Just try it. Trust me. And finally, we have Yamato getting some nerfs, but also arguably a quality of life change to the Flying Slash. So first of all, the nerfs. It is getting a lower range from 28 meters down to 26 meters, and the tier 3 charge delay has been increased from 3 to 4 seconds. But the tier 3 ally targeting now requires alt cast input. So, if you're looking at 2 characters like this, the game, previously would get a little bit confused. Which one do I target? And that could mess you up. So, now if I use my alt cast input, which in this case is holding down the button, I will target my teammate, just like that. But if I line up the same way and I just press the button normally, I teleport to the enemy. So that honestly will probably be very nice, although Yamato players will have to get used to this. I'm sure it'll mess up their muscle memory a little bit if they're trying to just teleport to a teammate in the middle of a fight, because as you can see, if I just press the button normally, I can't actually, latch to this guy anymore. So I have to hold it down just a little bit longer, and then I get a teleport to my team. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video, so let me know what you think about this update in the comments section down below, and make sure to like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here so you don't miss out on future news videos such as this. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.